Welcome back to Hardball. Michelle Norris is host of NPR's All Things Considered. In her new book, she looks at the issue of race through the personal experiences of her family and the secrets they kept. The book is called The Grace of Silence. Michelle, thank you for joining us. I want to get to the book in 1 minute, but you have to earn your spurs here. 1 minute. This new poll number that's out here that shows that 91% of African Americans in the country are still with the president. It's even up a bit. I mean, these numbers are interesting and move between 87 and 93. And then you hear the concerns that he hasn't been, I mean, the phrase is, I guess, black enough in the campaign, but now it's more like issues. It's not so much ethnic identification, which I don't think he's ever dodged, but issues like joblessness.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a lot of African Americans who look to those issues, and they look at their bank accounts, they look at the friends who've lost jobs, they hear people talk about the recovery, but they don't necessarily feel the recovery in their lives. And they, like a lot of voters, would like to see perhaps more results coming out of the White House. But unlike some other voters or voting groups, they have a certain fidelity to this president, and they're more likely to stay with him because of the historic nature of this presidency. They really have rallied behind the president. The big question, though, is whether they will show the same kind of enthusiasm in the midterms. And looking way down the road in 2012, will they show up in big numbers, whether they'll, show up at the polls with the same sort of enthusiasm and making sure that they don't go just by themselves, but to bring someone with you. You remember that people were told that, in the 2008 election, don't go to the polls alone. I wonder if that kind of message will get out there in the midterm and in the general election.
Will it be a group event? Like it was in 2008. Mm-hmm. Will it be something you celebrate together? I had a theory that when you walk down the street and said hello to your friends or went to the barbers or went to your neighborhood, whatever, hangout, you couldn't walk in the room and say, I didn't vote today. You had to have voted. Whereas in this election, I think you could probably say to some people, I was so sick and tired, I didn't even bother voting, and you wouldn't be yelled out of the room. That's the difference.
At the White House, they understand this, and what you're starting to hear from them, you hear it from President Obama on the campaign trail, you're starting to hear it from the surrogates that are out on the road, and you're starting to hear it more often from the candidates, and I'm certain you're going to hear it from the DNC, is the message, the work is not done yet.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Let me ask you about you, and I've always been a fan of yours, and I think you're something special as a reporter, obviously, and you've been that perfection operation you work for, National Public Radio, which is so perfect. We just try here, but you guys always succeed. I also like the fact you've kept your distinctive voice and not become sounding like everybody else over there, but that's something I always pay attention to. Your dad, this story you mentioned, secrets of growing up as an African American. That secret about your dad getting shot.
Well, it was a secret that the family kept for years, that my father kept. He never told anyone. He didn't even tell my mother. And what I learned from an uncle who basically just, spilled it one day, he said, your dad was shot years ago. And Chris saying this on the television right now, saying it while I'm on book tour, never gets easier, because this is something I never had a chance to talk to my own father about. But he was shot in Birmingham when he returned as a Navy veteran after World War II, and he stood up for himself when confronted by police officers who didn't want to let him enter a public building. And there was a scuffle and a gun went off, and he was wounded in the leg when the bullet grazed his leg. And what I realized is that he was part of a group of veterans who came back from their military service and were not fully embraced after they fought for democracy and tried to get a piece of it back home, and yet they didn't move forward with anger.
Michelle, thanks so much. The name of the book is The Grace of... Please buy this book. It's about America, The Grace of Silence, and what we don't know, some of us.